And we're back like we never left. Oregon fans, what's going on? How we living? Hope everybody's having an awesome day. It is Saturday, May 20th, 2023. And thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. In case you're new here, I'm your host, Max Torres, publisher and lead editor of Ducks Digest, covering the Oregon Ducks over on Fan Nation, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. It is a double quack Saturday, double trouble, second episode of the day coming to you live on YouTube at Oregon Football Max Torres, also on Twitter at mtorresports. If you guys are here in the live stream, do me a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and join me in the live chat. Let me know how you're feeling about Oregon football on the recruiting trail here in the class of 2024. Dan Lanning and the Ducks are red hot, landing a commitment from 2024 quarterback Michael Van Buren out of Baltimore, Maryland, St. Francis Academy earlier today. And then, some 30 minutes later, Durant, Oklahoma defensive lineman Xadavien Sims also hopped into the fold. And this is just shaping up to be a really, really nice haul for the Ducks in the 2024 class. I had an episode probably a week or so ago, I want to say, saying that the Ducks are going to sign their best class in program history, and getting Xadavien Sims and Michael Van Buren in the fold on the same day definitely helps you take a nice step towards that milestone here in the class of 2024. So what we're going to do on today's episode, just to give you guys a little bit of rundown, we're going to talk about the recruiting impact of Xadavien Sims' commitment. We're going to talk about a little bit of evaluation, about what kind of a player the Ducks are getting. And then we're also going to talk about his roster outlook at Oregon. And always got to talk about what's next for Oregon on the recruiting trail. So if all that sounds fun to you, that sounds good to you guys, go ahead and sit back and relax, and let's talk some Ducks. So with Xadavien Sims, the story with him, he's listed at 6'3", 275 pounds on the 247 Sports composite. He is a four-star recruit, the number 194 prospect in the country, number 23 defensive lineman, and number 2 prospect in the state of Oklahoma. Prior to committing to Oregon, Xadavien Sims racked up 22 reported scholarship offers and had Oregon in his top 5 heading into his college commitment on Saturday, along with Michigan State, TCU, Vanderbilt, and the Oklahoma Sooners. So, just looking at those schools right off the top, Oregon was able to go into Oklahoma and really take one of the state's top players right away from, Brent Venables and company out there in Norman. 247, them independently, they had Xadavien Sims as the top player in the state. So it's really been a common theme for Oregon, even before Dan Lanning got to Eugene, certainly under Mario Cristobal, going into different states across the country and just taking the top player available from that state. So Oregon was able to beat out Oklahoma, and then another big player in this recruitment was Michigan State. Michigan State made a really, really hard push late in this recruitment, but Oregon was able to hang on. Just to give a little bit of background on how this Xadavien Sims commitment kind of came to be, the Ducks offered in January, relatively late for, a junior, right? So his junior season had come and gone, and now you have some more film to evaluate, have a better, hold or better idea of, a recruit. So they were able to enter the picture in January with a scholarship offer. Sims took 2 trips out to Oregon. I want to say it was in April, if not, maybe one of them trickled over to this month in May, but 2 trips to Oregon in close proximity to each other in the spring. And then coming out of that last trip to Oregon, he decided that he wanted to whittle down his suitors, trim his list to 5, and then moved up that commitment date very, very quickly. So like I kind of said in the commitment preview episode of the podcast, this was a guy that I think, from what I had been hearing and what I was told, was going to take his official visits and kind of slow things down and, not rush into a decision. And I'm not saying he did, but it looked like he was going to take his time. And then that second trip out to Eugene, I think really helped Oregon kind of get into the lead in that recruitment. And then Tony Tuioti also went out to Oklahoma during the spring evaluation period this month to pay Sims a visit. So that's another thing that kind of helped them, just seeing that that priority. I think that Xadavien Sims felt like a priority for Oregon. And then, Oregon was also getting that interest reciprocated. So I think that is part of what really helped Oregon in this recruitment to ultimately get the job done and add another really talented defensive lineman into the fold here in 2024. So now that you have Xadavien Sims in the fold in this 2024 class, who's he joining? Well, the Ducks already had 2 commitments along the front 7. You're looking at Jackson Jones, edge rusher out of Arizona, and then you also have Tioni Gray, more of an interior defensive lineman out of the state of Missouri. He flipped from the Tigers to Oregon last month. He's 6'6", 295 pounds. So pairing him along with Xadavien Sims gives you 2 really, really high-end defensive linemen here in the 2024 class. They both have, college-ready frames, college-ready bodies, and, the Ducks are showing once again that they're willing to go wherever they need to find those guys that can help take them to the next level. And if you've been listening to me for a while, or you've been reading me for a while, you know that my thought on the defensive line at Oregon has been that it's been good, but hasn't been good enough. And I think that this is the caliber of a guy that you really, really need along the defensive line. So I think that this is an awesome commitment for Oregon. They certainly needed it. Definitely a position of need here with so many veteran defensive linemen set to depart from Oregon following the 2023 season, similar to the mass wave of departures that we saw from the offensive line following the 2022 season. That'll, to a degree, be what we're seeing from the defensive line for Oregon following the 2023 season, with names like Brandon Dorless, Casey Rogers, possibly Jordan Birch, Popo Amavai. All those guys could very well be playing their last seasons of college football following 2023. So you have to keep loading up on guys that you believe can make that room competitive and can help you just build this, SEC style or top tier defense that Dan Lanning has been, going after since he got hired at Oregon. That's what he's been striving for, since he got the job. So we'll get into a little bit more of roster outlook a little bit later, but we're going to go and get into an eval right now. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up some highlights here on the screen, and then going to get a little assist here from Gabe Brooks of 247. He's a national scouting analyst. I'm going to go ahead and read his evaluation here. So wanted to make sure I'm giving credit. Gabe Brooks does a great job over there, and this is his take on Xadavien Sims. He says, quote, "True hand on the ground D lineman with a stout build, adequate height verified in the 6'3" range, similarly adequate frame length with space to add more mass, very young for his grade, likely a scheme versatile prospect given physical traits. Flashes punch power at the point of attack, capable of disengaging to make plays on the ball, has some pursuit juice when closing on a bead. Play strength is obvious, bull rusher who can collapse the pocket from the interior, but also plays edge snaps and shows similar brute force on the outside. Owns valuable two-way snaps with reps at tight end, flashes impact, a blocking ability, and fires out of stance perhaps more consistently on offense. Experience in shot put and discus with respectable early career numbers from freshman and sophomore springs. Needs more technical nuance. That includes hand violence, extension, and disengaging consistency, as well as expanding his move set as a pass rusher. Updated verified measurables, testing, and throws data will also help shed more light on the long-term upside. Nevertheless, projects as a high major defensive lineman with possible personnel versatility, should arrive with size and strength to play early if needed. One of the top prospects in the state of Oklahoma's 2024 class. Collection of traits and data points suggests possibility to become an impact college player, an NFL draft candidate. End quote. That again coming from 247 Sports national scouting analyst Gabe Brooks. So another big time guy in the fold for Oregon, and I think that what really stands out to me with Sims is that positional versatility. Some of the people that I was talking to in Eugene about Sims, hit on that point about kind of what makes him special as a prospect is that he's a guy that they feel they can move kind of anywhere along that defensive line. And I think that that's really valuable because not only are you adding the body types that you need along the defensive line to help Oregon go to the next level, but you're bringing guys that can do multiple things, which, common sense says that that's a good thing. And I think that what is really important with him is that he's able to generate a lot of havoc, chaos, and pass rush from the interior, because Oregon hasn't necessarily had that. Even when they have had a good pass rush, a lot of it's come from the edges. And then you kind of get some occasional flashes from guys like Casey Rogers, and the Ducks are hoping Popo Amavai, Brandon Dorless on the interior. So if you can add guys that are, seriously like freak athletes on the edges, I know that they're really excited about Jackson Jones. If you can pair him or a Jordan Birch with a guy like Xadavien Sims who can get the job done on the inside, I think that is super, super valuable. And then he has that positional versatility to move along and play on the edge as well. Big dude that the Ducks certainly needed. Also has, some upside clearly in the run game. He makes it a habit of getting in the backfield and, stuffing that run right there, closing the gap, with relative ease. I think that is huge. So you have a guy that can move around, and I think that just is going to help him see the field sooner rather than later versus a guy who is maybe a little bit more one-dimensional in his game. And then, like the eval mentioned, this is also a track guy who also participated in the shot put, which is, not an easy thing to do. So you're just getting a really, really athletic guy, no matter how you look at it. And 247 has his NFL comp as Thomas Booker on the Houston Texans. And if you've been an Oregon fan for a while, watching Pac-12 football, Thomas Booker went to Stanford out of the DC area originally. And I think that I can definitely see a little bit of the overlap and some of the similarities there, a really athletic front seven defender in the trenches. And I think that's an awesome comparison in terms of just the kind of company that you want to be in the mix with if you're a guy like Xadavien Sims or any high-level defensive lineman. So tons of upside with Xadavian's game. And I think that, this is another recruitment where you probably see, the Dan Lanning, the Tosh Lupoi factor. And then we also have to talk about Tony Tuioti. I mean, Tony Tuioti has, I feel like, quietly flown under the radar as one of the better recruiters on this Oregon staff. You look at the guys that he's been able to bring in, brought in Jordan Riley. He got drafted in the NFL, brought in Casey Rogers, very high impact player right away at Oregon. He's coming back for another year. So that speaks to his ability to recruit as well, getting him to stick around. And then, all the defensive linemen that he was able to help sign in the 2023 class, whether you're looking at, Tavita Pomee, Terrence Green, Amari Washington. Who else do you have in that class? You also have Michael Gardner out of the state of Arizona. And he's putting together a really nice haul. And I think that even though they signed a lot in 2023, you got to prioritize the defensive line again in 2024 because of that point that I mentioned earlier, is that you're going to have a lot of guys departing. So you need to keep that room, filled with talent, filled with guys that you think can go out there and make some noise. And it sounds like from what some of these industry experts are saying from an eval standpoint is that he has the ability to play early, because you look at him, he's got all the traits and the physical characteristics that you want to see for him to play college ball right now. But he's going to have to refine his game. There's strengths and weaknesses to any recruit, but this is huge. The fact that they were able to go against some really big time programs to win out on his talent. Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans, we're not necessarily seeing some massive commitments from them, but Xadavien Sims is a guy that was linked to Michigan State at one point. I know Michigan State's pushing really hard for Dylan Williams, one of Oregon's top linebacker targets here in the 2024 class. So they're not to be messed with on the recruiting trail. I don't think they should be taken lightly, even though we may not be seeing the same recruiting success as we are with Oregon. So I mean, yeah, Tosh Lupoi had a big factor in this recruitment as well. I think that, he's finding himself popping up with, so many different recruits, not just edge rushers. And I think that he's just proving time and time again. And we'll definitely see it this 2023 season when once these guys, get playing in games. Tosh Lupoi is just proving to be an absolute asset to this Oregon football program, especially on the recruiting trail. And then I think a lot of fans are excited about where the defense is headed in 2023. So let's see what else we can talk about here. What's next for Oregon when it comes to recruiting? Well, I mean, there's a lot of really high profile defensive linemen that the Ducks are going after. You already have a couple in the fold, but you're still going to be going after guys like Williams Nwaneri, who's the number one defensive lineman in 2024 out of the state of Missouri. And then you also have, who else do you have? You have Aiden Breland out of Santa Ana Mater Dei. He just put Oregon in his top 10, and he was telling me at the Mater Dei Spring Showcase that Oregon is constantly on him. And then he pops up in Eugene for an unofficial visit today, this weekend, alongside another Mater Dei teammate that the Ducks are recruiting heavily, 5-star offensive tackle Brandon Baker. So a couple of these big names in the trenches, specifically along the D-line. You have Williams Nwaneri, like I mentioned, and then Aiden Breland is the best defensive lineman out west. Also, the Ducks are also going after Jericho Johnson out of, I want to say it's Fairfield, California, Armijo High School. He's been on campus recently in the spring for an unofficial visit. So I'm just trying to think of some of the other big-time defensive linemen the Ducks are in on. Elijah Rushing out of South Point Catholic in Tucson, Arizona. Really wanted to go out and see him during my trip to Arizona this past week, but they were done with spring ball, so that was a bummer. Wasn't able to see him. Jordan Ross, big-time edge rusher, number one recruit, or a very top elite recruit in the state of Alabama. 247 has him as the number one recruit in Alabama, and I think that the Ducks lead for him based on the latest that I've been hearing. So they're staying involved with a bunch of really talented guys. You also have Zena Umeozulu from Allen High School in Texas. He's a big-time edge rusher that was recently on campus in Eugene. You also have Joseph Jonah Ajonye as another talented defensive lineman, definitely projects as an interior guy out of Conroe, Texas, Oak Ridge High School. So many big names that the Ducks are still in on here in the 2024 class along the defensive line. Scrolling right now, TJ Lindsay, big-time defensive lineman out of Arkansas. He's liking the Ducks. I'm not sure that the Ducks have an awesome chance in that one, but they're still involved and in the running for a number of really talented guys. So this is the position that you want to be in if you're Oregon, without a doubt, being in the running for just so many elite guys. Who are some other people we can talk about as far as what's next in the immediate future? All eyes now turn to San Jacinto, California wide receiver Dylan Gresham in the 2024 class. Dylan Gresham, one of the best wide receivers in Southern California. He's going to be making his college announcement on Monday, May 22nd at 9 a.m. Pacific. I believe that's going to be on the 247 Sports YouTube channel, but I'm also going to be boots on the ground in San Jacinto to cover that commitment in person. So I'm going to try to figure out what my Wi-Fi situation is looking like, what my streaming situation is looking like, but I'm hoping to be live streaming Dylan Gresham's commitment as he chooses between Oregon, Arizona, and Washington on Monday. I got my first look at him, very quick glimpse this morning at the Long Beach Tournament of Champions over at Milliken. He had a pair of touchdown catches in the game that I was watching. And, he's a guy who I think kind of flies under the radar in Southern California, doesn't really play in the LA area. So there's so many wide receivers, talented wideouts in the SoCal area. You have Jordan Anderson, who's committed to Oregon. You have Xavier Jordan, who's committed to USC. You have Quasi Gilmer at Sierra Canyon as well. Ryan Pelham at Long Beach Milliken. So it's very easy, I think, if you're not constantly in the spotlight to kind of get swept under the rug a little bit. But Dylan Gresham had 2,000 receiving yards as a junior, 31 touchdowns. I was talking to his coach today, and he was talking about how he had, I think, 40 catches and 1,200 yards just in the playoffs last year. So he's a burner. He can get behind defenses, no question about it. And he would be a massive addition for the Ducks. I logged a prediction for Dylan Gresham to Oregon earlier this week. So I think that I love where Oregon stands. I like Oregon for Dylan Gresham, another talented wide receiver that Junior Adams and company are recruiting here in the state of California in the Golden State. I already talked about Brandon Baker, how he's on campus right now this weekend, along with Aiden Breland. That's huge. Ducks definitely have some ground to make up for Brandon Baker in this recruitment following the departures of Adrian Clem and Vianney Telemaival. They both played a big role in his recruitment to Oregon before they took new jobs. But Alik Terry has really hit the ground running and made Brandon Baker a priority in the 2024 recruiting class along the offensive line. Alik Terry was out at the Modern Day Showcase last week, so he's getting out to his important spots for sure. And then who else do you have here? Jaquan McCroy out of Pinson, Alabama. He's a big-time offensive lineman that I've been talking about for a little bit. I think he's supposed to be making his commitment. I just saw like a little bit of rumor that I think it was June 30th that he's going to be making his college commitment, and I really like where Oregon stands for Jaquan McCroy. One of the biggest offensive tackles in the 2024 class. I know that the Ducks would love to pair him with Fox Crater, 2024 offensive tackle committed to Oregon right now. He's been taking trips all over the country, but it looks like he's back in Eugene this weekend as well. So huge for this staff to get him back on campus and just try to shore things up and, make sure that he's still solid with the Ducks. Who else do you have here? I mean, more big names in the 2024 class. You have Justin Williams out of Conroe, Texas, Oak Ridge High School. Looks like he's working from a top three, more or less, of Oregon, Alabama, and Georgia. I believe both he and his teammate, Joseph Jonah Ajonye, were recently in Athens to check out Georgia if they're not currently there this weekend. But either way, recent trips to Athens for those guys, a pair of top targets for Oregon. I think that the Ducks probably lead for Dylan Williams, or Justin Williams. Sorry, I'm getting my Williamses mixed up. But I think Oregon leads for Justin Williams. Talked to him after the spring game, and he's loving the Ducks and everything that they have building. So might have to put a prediction in for Justin Williams to Oregon sooner than later. You also have Dylan Williams out of Long Beach Poly in Southern California, just up the road from me. He took his first official visit to UCLA, and he's going to be getting out to Michigan State and Oregon, Texas, Michigan, Miami as well. So a bunch of big schools are coming after Dylan Williams as well. But I also really like where Oregon stands in that recruitment with Dan Lanning and Tosh Lapoy making him a priority. Kamar Matudi is a big-time linebacker as well out of the Southern California area, Hollywood, Studio City, Valley Village area, Campbell Hall High School. I love where Oregon stands for Kamar Matudi. No decision date just yet. I don't believe. I think the last time I talked to him, he was saying it was probably coming before the season, sometime in the summer. I have my prediction on Kamar Matudi going to Oregon. And then you also have guys like Dakota Fields and Miles Lockhart, two top cornerback targets for Oregon here in the 2024 class. Dakota Fields recently put Oregon in his top 7, but I believe that that's going to be an Oregon versus USC battle for Dakota Fields. Remember, Oregon signed his teammate Roderick Pleasant out of Gardena Serra last year in the 2023 cycle. He's going to be taking an official visit out to Oregon in June as well. So that's a notable update there. And then Miles Lockhart is working on setting up his official visit to Oregon. And I think that Oregon's only going to take 2 cornerbacks in this 2024 class now that Ife Obadekwu from St. Francis Academy is in the fold. And then they also took Nico Reed last weekend from the transfer portal, coming over from Colorado, reuniting with Demetrius Martin. So the cornerback spot is not one that Oregon has a lot of spots for here in the 2024 class. But I think those are some of the biggest names that you need to know on the recruiting trail as far as what's next. I mean, they're also in the top 5. Oregon is for Gatlin Bear, another talented wide receiver. So we'll keep tabs on some of these top guys and see what's next. But maybe I can get in a couple of these comments in before we get out of here. A little bit of a quicker episode because it is a busy, busy day covering the Duck Beat on the recruiting trail. Eric says, QUAAACK top 5 class loading. If Oregon were to land a commitment from Dylan Gresham on Monday, I believe that they would jump into the top 5 on the recruiting rankings in the 247 class. So that's big time for sure that the Ducks would be if the Ducks are able to get that one to climb into top 5 territory, and then, hopefully be able to finish with that. But, it's only May, so there's still so much time. But I think that a top 5 class is well within reach for Oregon, and I think that's probably where they're going to end up landing once everything is said and done. Let's see what else we have here. Another one from Eric. Brandon Baker and Aiden Breland both on campus as we speak. This is shaping up to be an incredible class. It is absolutely shaping up to be an incredible class. I've been trying to bang the drum on that. Just, love the way the staff has attacked the recruiting trail. I love how they've managed their visits. And just, I think everything's kind of shaping up to fall into Oregon's favor with a lot of their top guys. Nate Frazier out of Modern Day, I think he's another top guy you have to look at. And then you also have Dejon Riggs out of St. John's College in the DC area. I know Oregon really, really likes him as one of their top running back targets here in the 2024 class. So I think that if Oregon's able to, I feel better about Oregon's chances with Brandon Baker than I do with Aiden Breland right now. But maybe I can get back out to, I guess I have to get back out to Modern Day next week to see if I can interview Brandon about his latest visit. So Oregon's, doing all the right things in terms of, trying to prioritize their top guys and get them on campus and just continue building a truly special class. Micah time, let's go. Another stud. Yeah, the Ducks just keep landing top guys. I mean, I wonder so Oregon's 2024 class right now, I believe, is ranked number 6 in the country by 247 Sports. Tops in the Pac-12. Still, they now have 13 commitments here in the 2024 class. And what are they averaging? I think, I wanted to see what they were averaging. Oregon is averaging 91.35 average rating per commit, so well above 4-star status. This is exactly where you want to be. And then I think that they're still, very much in the running for a number of 5 stars here in the 2024 class. If you had to ask me the 5 stars that I'm most confident Oregon can land in 2024, I would say Justin Williams, and then I would also say Brandon Baker at this time. So another stud for the Ducks, no doubt. And then Eric says, Pleasant just ran a 10.0900 meter and a 20.53 200 meter. He's a monster. Yeah, I was just talking to, someone close to the program before this, and they were telling me that they feel pretty confident that Roderick's going to play as a freshman and isn't going to redshirt, which is, interesting because Oregon's cornerback room is very crowded. You have some decent returning production with Triquez Bridges and Dante Manning. And then you also now add Kyrie Jackson and Nico Reed to the mix. And then you have Roger Pleasant, Dalen Austin, Colin Gill, Cole Martin, a number of really impressive corners in this 2024 class. So that competition in the cornerback room is going to be super fun to watch. And then Pleasant's probably also going to be playing as a specialist and maybe getting involved on offense as well. That was part of the not the sales pitch, but part of the pitch that Oregon was making for Pleasant was that they did kind of want him to play both ways a little bit. Here's Brad's Adams, his comment talking about should Pleasant play both ways. I don't know if I'd say he should, but the biggest thing is you're not gonna have a guy that runs 10 flat in the 100 and just keep him on the bench. He's going to find his way out of the field is kind of how the direction I'm growing more and more confident in. The short area burst, the athleticism, the ball skills, the playmaking ability. I think having him and Cole Martin in the class is really going to help. They're going to be able to look at Cole Martin. I see that they're kind of similar as players, play style, and then see how he transitioned to Oregon, transitioned to the college level, and then try to maybe look back to that blueprint for Roderick. So this 23 class is solid, and I think it's going to be big for Oregon to get this class up and running with the rest of the guys coming to Oregon in June next month. But yeah, I think that's about all I had for this episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. Xadavien Sims hops in the fold as Oregon's 2024 class continues to climb the recruiting rankings, now ranked number 6 nationally. And now attention turns to Dylan Gresham, the 2024 San Jacinto wide receiver, on Monday. So just a reminder, if you guys aren't already, make sure you tap in with me and lock in with me on Twitter at mtorresports, and then on YouTube as well at Oregon Football Max Torres. Those are the best ways you can lock into my coverage. Also, make sure you're reading up on the latest in Oregon football recruiting over on ducksdigest.com. Got a class impact story for Van Buren. And then now I'm also going to type up a class impact story for Xadavien Sims once I get this podcast uploaded. So make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate your support. It's your support that makes trips to Arizona, like I took last week to go cover Luke Moga, the other 2024 Oregon quarterback commit. It's your guys' support, super chats, likes, whatever it is, subscribing to the channel. Like, it's your guys' support that makes those trips possible. I love what I do, and I'm so grateful to be able to take those trips and do my best to cover Oregon football on the recruiting trail. So if you're an Oregon recruiting fan, I'm your guy. Don't forget it. But that'll do it for today's episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. Make sure you guys share the show with your friends, with your family, with other Duck fans. And until next time, thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to talk some Duck football with me, talk some Cruton, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Ducks Dish podcast.